Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for coming onto the call. Another Ask Me Anything. My name is Patrik Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com and intensivecareathome.com, and I'm here to ask any of your questions in regards to if you have a loved one in intensive care. I feel qualified that I can answer any of your questions. Just before we get into the questions that you have already posted here, just a little bit about myself in case you're new to this YouTube Live. I am here to answer your question once a week live on this YouTube Live for families of critically ill patients in intensive care. What makes me qualified to answer your questions? Well, I'm a critical care nurse by background. I have worked in intensive care / critical care for over 20 years in 3 different countries, where I also worked as a nurse unit manager for over 5 years. I have been consulting and advocating for families in intensive care for over 10 years here at intensivecarehotline.com. I'm also the founder and managing director of Intensive Care at Home. You can find more information at intensivecareathome.com, where we send critical care nurses into the home, predominantly for long-term intensive care patients, including tracheostomy and ventilated patients. Now, without further ado, let's look at the questions that you have already posted. I want to start with William. William, you are one of our members, and I want to thank you for your membership. And I want to read out your questions here. William, you're saying, "Hi Patrik, my father is currently recovering from an anoxic brain injury in a hospital in Florida, but I'm concerned that he would receive better care in New York City in a neurocritical care unit. Can you please advise me on how to transfer him safely in his critical state? Is an air ambulance the only option? And will insurance cover the cost of transportation? Thank you very much for your help." Sure. Thanks, William, for your question there. Transferring a critically ill patient is not as difficult as you think it is, and here's the reason why. I'll give you a number of reasons why. So there are patients in ICU, for example, they are on ECMO. ECMO is a bypass machine that takes over the function of the heart or the lung, or potentially both. Now, those patients are often being put on ECMO, i.e. bypass machine, in an emergency room or in an emergency department, or maybe in a smaller ICU. But a smaller ICU or a smaller hospital doesn't really have the capacity to look after ECMO. They can only do that short term. So what happens to these patients? Well, those patients are being retrieved by air ambulance. And I argue patients on ECMO are some of the sickest patients you see in ICU. So if they can get flown around by an air ambulance, I argue your dad, William, can go to New York, right? Either by a road ambulance or by an air ambulance. Going from Florida to New York is not around the corner, but it is doable. I would say that probably a flight would be more suitable than road ambulance. But in order to answer your question, is it possible? Absolutely, it is possible. Absolutely. Now, give you another example here. A few years ago, as part of the work that we are doing here at intensivecarehotline.com, we managed to help a family to go from Melbourne in Australia to Beijing. They had their loved one here in intensive care in a Melbourne hospital, and they were Chinese nationals and they wanted to go back to China. And we helped them source a retrieval flight back with a small critical care team to get on an airplane from Melbourne to Beijing. Their loved one was ventilated with a breathing tube, so a very risky airway, right? Very risky airway. And therefore, yes, it needed a small retrieval team with a critical care doctor, critical care nurse, but it was all doable. Now, William, your dad has a tracheostomy, as far as I recall. I'm just looking at your emails now. But your dad has a tracheostomy, as far as I recall. So his airway is pretty stable, right? A tracheostomy is, yes, it's an artificial airway, but it's a pretty safe airway compared to a breathing tube in the mouth. So therefore, getting him on an air ambulance trip or on a retrieval flight should be pretty safe. Now, also what I know about your dad, William, is he is not on any vasopressors or inotropes. That means he's hemodynamically stable. Just with my last example, when I said that, patients on ECMO are being air retrieved, those patients are usually very unstable, right? Very unstable. So therefore, if you can retrieve patients that are on inotropes, on ECMO, and all the rest of it, all the bells and whistles that are needed for high-end critical care, right? Your dad will be safe to be air retrieved or road ambulance retrieved. I don't see that as a major issue. I hope that answers your question. Now, that's the transport side of things. That's the logistics, right? Now, will insurance cover the cost of transportation? That part I don't know, because it probably depends on your dad's insurance plan, right? So a lot of it comes down to that. What does the insurance plan entail? Now, the other thing that I would be looking out for, William, is what's the reputation of the neurocritical care unit. I would also think that with your dad's situation, William, that wouldn't he be better off in the long run to go to neurorehabilitation, right? And that would be good if he could go for neurology rehabilitation, right? Because that way he can really work on the recovery of the brain. Now, by the same token, it would be very advantageous for your dad to be weaned off the tracheostomy first, because here's the issue with neurological recovery after stroke, anoxic brain injury, hypoxic brain injury, and for someone that's ventilated or has a tracheostomy. It's very difficult to find rehabilitation centers that are qualified to do neuro rehab for someone with a tracheostomy or a ventilator or both, right? And because then the focus will be on airway management, right, rather than on the neurological recovery. So from that perspective, going to a neuro rehab might be the right thing to do. However, what is the goal for you to take him to neuro rehab or to neurocritical care rehab, or no, to a neurocritical care unit? What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? I think that's the better question here, William. Maybe you can type into the chat, Pat, what do you want to achieve? Now, I can also get you live on this call if you want to. I'll just send you the link here. It might be easier just to talk here, but it's up to you. It's entirely up to you if you want to come on the call or not. I'll just quickly send you the link here, or for anyone on this call. If you want to join me here on the call and you want to talk to me directly, just use this link, the StreamYard link, and then I can talk to you directly here. I can invite you here. You don't need to go on camera, but you can definitely talk to me directly. So hope William, that gives you some ideas. But if you can tell me, what is your goal by your dad going to neurocritical care? What do you want to achieve by doing so? Now, let me go back to, in the meantime, let me go back to Francois, who says, there's William. Hang on, William, I'll just let you in. Francois, I will come back to your question. Hang on, I'll just here. Hi, William. Nice to see you. Hang on. I can't hear you yet. Hang on. Yeah. I think it might be on your end, William. Are you unmuted?
Yeah.
There we go. Can you talk? I can't hear you. Hang on. Oh, now you're gone. Now you're gone. You can try again. In the meantime, I'll just quickly go back to Francois' question who says, my relative has been in the ICU now, PCU, for more than a month now. Oh, hang on, there's William again. Let's try that, William. Can you talk?
Hello, can you hear me?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, and nice to meet you.
Likewise.
William, what's your, you could hear what I was saying earlier?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you want to achieve by your dad going on to neurocritical care?
In his critical state, in his critical neurological state, I believe that he needs the best care. And currently now in Mayo Clinic in Florida, I don't believe that they have all the advanced technologies for him. And I read, that New York University in New York City has a lot of advanced technology for people that father in his case.
Okay. And have you spoken to someone in this neurocritical care, or is it just all online research you've done?
I have. I spoken to the NYU Kimmel Center, and they told me that if someone from the hospital contacted them, they could provide a bed in the neurocritical care center there. And I also spoken to the insurance, which is Medicare, and they said that, again, if the hospital recommends it, it probably could be covered.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask your expertise about how to handle the whole situation.
Yeah. Have you spoken to the hospital? That would they support you?
I haven't, because the hospital, in this hospital, as you know from all my emails, they're very LTAC
Focused.
focused. And, thanks to you, I've been focusing heavily on always telling them that I don't want anything to do with LTAC. And they always put that in the note. But even as recent as today, they still say, LTAC is probably a good option in the future, even though, it doesn't come up in conversation anymore because I'm very defensive.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if you present a solution to them, i.e., neurocritical care in New York, I think you should just present it to them and see what they say.
Okay. Should I tell the doctor or should I tell the case manager?
Who are you in communication the most?
I daily I communicate with the doctor for the floor, but I also can communicate with the top case manager here in the hospital as well.
Okay. Where do you think you have more leverage? Okay, let's just take both. Who do you think will help you more for your gut feeling?
Probably the doctor.
Go with the people that you think will help you the most. The case manager is probably a nurse or a social worker or
social worker.
Social worker. They don't understand the clinical.
No. For them, it's all about the numbers.
For them, it's about the numbers, and for them, it's shifting people around without really knowing where do they need to go next.
Absolutely.
Right? So bear in mind, the only thing that I will say there is, as you would know by now, hospitals are highly political, organizations. And as much as the doctor might say all the right things, at the end of the day, they have to do all the right things. But I think you should start with the doctor if you feel like that's where it's going. Now, here's another comment about LTAC, William. You are in Florida, is that right?
Correct, yes.
I can tell you, over the many years of me doing this now, we had families in Florida saying, oh, we're going to LTAC, and they're sending us out of state. They're sending us to Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Now, the reason for that is, from my research and the work that we've been doing over the years, apparently there's only very few LTACs in Florida. I do believe they exist. They're probably not as many as in other states in the US, but apparently there are fewer LTACs in Florida. And, God forbid if they were all of a sudden telling you, oh, we need to go to LTAC, and by the way, we're going to Atlanta. You go like,
Yes,
you might as well go to New
I'm actually
York.
close to, very close to Georgia.
Okay, I see. Okay, fair enough. But okay, I didn't realize that. So for you, it might not, location-wise, it might not be as difficult then. But sometimes we're dealing with clients in the south of Florida, and then they say, well, they're telling us to go to Georgia. It's just not an option. But if you feel like going to New York is the better option here, then I can only support you in that. But here is a recommendation, William. So neurological rehabilitation for your dad will be so much easier once he's off the ventilator and once he has the trach removed.
Okay.
Right. Here is why. For anyone with a stroke, hypoxic brain injury, anoxic brain injury, the long-term goal should be some form of neurological rehabilitation, ideally in a specialized facility, ideally. Now, here's the problem. From my experience, only few of those rehabilitation facilities can take patients with a trach, let alone with a ventilator. Right?
Yes.
Because their specialty is to focus on the neurological rehabilitation, right? In order to facilitate the neurological rehabilitation with a ventilator and a trach, well, all of a sudden that ventilator and the trach becomes the focus, right? As you can probably already see, there's limitations around what they're doing in terms of mobilization, physical therapy, and that should be the focus with neurology rehab.
And I wanted to say thank you so much for being a tremendous resource for my family and for all the families that you have been supporting. You really are fabulous. You give us guidance, and if we didn't have that guidance, I don't know where we'd be. So I thank you so much for that.
It's a pleasure. I know you and other families, you are facing so many challenges. It's, I've seen it, over and over again over decades, but, people that haven't been in this world, the challenges that people are facing they appear to be insurmountable. I get that. They appear to be insurmountable. And because it's baby steps often, nothing happens fast. It's very, very challenging. And hospitals, they would tell you, yep, tomorrow we're moving there and next week we're moving there. Like if no one guides you, you would just sign up for that, and
Exactly.
it doesn't end well.
Exactly. And thanks again for your guidance. It really makes a difference.
Thank you. So, but to be practical here, William, if you were to sign up for neurocritical care in New York, what would be your goal?
My goal would be to, to get my father on a pathway to better health, to get him, to bring him back. Right now he's like in a vegetative state, and he's on the trek, and he actually is breathing on his own pretty much. So the only reason why he can't come off the trek is because of his mentation. So
Because of his,
again.
You said the only reason he can't breathe is because of his
Mentation.
mentation. Sure.
Yes. So I feel that the care that he would get in the city would be much better because they're focused on neurocritical situations like this, where here it's more just like general.
Yeah. What are they doing at the moment? Are they doing physical therapy?
No, they're only doing OT, occupational therapy, once a week, and then everything else I'm doing on my own. I'm trying to do like music therapy. I read to him, but and then they're just taking care of him around the clock. That's basically it. And, watching his trek and stuff like that.
And no mobilization whatsoever.
I try to move his legs myself, and I put him to the window. So I try to make sure that he doesn't near him. So he has daytime and nighttime. Um, but that specialized care, he doesn't get that.
Okay. And how awake is he? How would you rate him? Is he opening eyes?
On that scale, he's a number 9. He
Number
does
9.
open his eyes. He's able to watch a movie, but he doesn't talk, and he tracks a little bit, to the right. So, and he responds to light in his pupils, um, which is a lot from when he first had this back in November. Uh, but he's still like in a vegetative state.
Would you, well, if he's watching a movie and he's tracking,
Yeah, like it looks like he's watching the movie, and when when the doctors come in the morning time to test him, he tracks to the right, and his
okay,
pupils dilate and respond to light.
okay. If you ask him to squeeze your hand, is he
No,
doing that? No.
no.
Okay. And
But
if you ask,
if I may say, he had an MRI the other day, and they went from an anoxic injury to now saying that he has a chronic uh, lacunar infarct left corona, basically a small vessel stroke. Well, like there's variations. Like every time we do a test, something is different. It's not the same or even close.
yeah, yeah, okay. So, what are they telling you why they don't do physical therapy and why they're not mobilizing him? What are they telling you?
They tell me that that's the responsibility of the nurses, and the nurses don't have time to do it. And they say that they only come in once a week, and then they say that I should also try to help as well, do as much as I can. But the nurses don't have time whatsoever to do that.
Do you, what's your own observation? Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, the on this floor they have multiple patients, so they don't have time to do it. And I'm in New York myself, and when I was in the hospital and they were supposed to help me, they really never helped me. They put it to OT or PT, and they only come. Maybe they'll come every day. When I was in the hospital, here they only come once a week, and that's why I say I think that there's better care in New York than there is here.
Okay. Okay, because I believe with what you are sharing with me, if there was more stimulation, i.e., sit him on the edge of the bed to begin with, see how he goes, if he can tolerate that, then the day after, maybe sit him in a comfortable chair, in a recliner chair, if you can manage 10 minutes, maybe the next day he can manage 20 minutes and you build up from there. That is how, from my experience, you rehabilitate a patient in ICU,
Yes,
even on a ventilator. Now, what I'm also observing, William, is I'm probably an old school nurse. I trained in a hospital, and we had it drummed in our heads. Well, you got to mobilize your patients, and that includes patients in ICU. I do also believe there's a new generation of nurses and doctors coming through. They're very hands off,
yes,
and whilst I believe there's definitely staffing challenges, I also believe it's much more now about admitting as many patients, making money, and then sending them out as quickly as possible, whilst we are losing the focus on rehabilitating them as early as possible.
Agreed. Yes, I agree.
That's what I'm observing.
100%. I'm actually going to take your tip, and tomorrow morning when the doctor comes, I'm going to push him to up the activities.
Here is another question, William. So let's just say he would go to neurocritical care in New York. Have you asked them about, what would be their plan?
So repeat that again.
So if you are going to neurocritical care in New York, how would they approach your dad's care and treatment?
I'm not sure. I can't, vouch for the daily activity, but I do know that they have the technology to address helping him further along his recovery. Like they have vast advanced care, and New York University Hospital Kimmel Pavilion is ranked #1 in the United States for neurocritical care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But what would be, okay, what other goals would there be? Would there be the goal of weaning him off the ventilator? Would there be the
Yes,
goal of,
the goal would be to wean him off the ventilator, to have more activity during the day, to get him back to bring back his mentation, um, to then interact and to work with occupational therapy and physical therapy, so he can rebound because he's also a cancer patient. And ultimately, I want him, strong enough that he can go back on the chemotherapy to beat back his cancer.
okay, okay. Because that would be, it sounds to me like at the moment, their only goal is to push him to LTAC. That's their only goal.
Yes, and I've been, thanks to you, I've been successful in pushing them back, so they don't even bring up LTAC to me. So they've been doing a good job of maintaining him, but they're not going the extra mile, or they don't have the ability here to address all of his neurological issues.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, William, I don't know whether you've seen Francois just made a comment here. He says, just to chime into William, the area where he's located, there are two LTACs, PAM Health Specialty of Jacksonville and
Yes.
Kindred Hospital of North Florida. Thank you, Francois, for chiming in there.
Yeah, I heard about that location as well. I've been researching it. But
Right.
thanks to you, I wouldn't even entertain it. I want
No, I
to
wouldn't.
keep him safe.
I wouldn't. You see, William, from my experience, or anyone watching this, the best way to rehabilitate someone with a brain injury that's ventilator dependent, has a tracheostomy, is by starting to mobilize them. That is the best way to rehabilitate them. And those are baby steps, don't get me wrong. Baby steps. You got to sit someone on the edge of the bed for 3 minutes one day, see whether they can tolerate it. If they can tolerate that, maybe tomorrow you do 5 minutes. And then you start maybe with 10 minutes in a chair. It's absolute baby steps, but that's how you start.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to ask you one other quick question, which is, in cases like my father with brain, have you seen a lot of those type of patients come back from a recovery standpoint and make a positive recovery?
I have, not that I've seen it so much directly because I'm in the acute sort of care sector, so I lose track what happens with patients down the line. However, I know of stories where people sometimes email us and they say, hey, do you remember me? I've worked with you a few years ago. Now it's 3 years later. My mom, my dad, my spouse, has recovered. Maybe not 100%, but to the degree where they feel like it was worthwhile the sacrifice, right? There's no guarantees, and what your ultimate, what might be your end goal here is a full recovery. You may not be able to achieve that, but you may be able to achieve some form of recovery where you think, hey, this is worth every sacrifice that I've been making. It's very difficult to answer that question, William, but there are stories out there where people have recovered, or people have recovered to a point, where they say, yep, I'm not back to where I was before, but I'm so grateful to be here. My family is so grateful that I'm here.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping for. And I thank you.
You're welcome. I think the other thing that, a lot of our clients or families in critical care look for specifically is, we all have to accept that we die one day, right? But having a say in that, even if it's not going the way you want it to go, but you still want to feel like, hey, we've tried everything. Imagine a family member passes away and you think, oh, we haven't tried this, or you find out later, we haven't tried this, we haven't tried that. You would never want to be in a position where you think, oh, we haven't tried everything, unless someone has an advanced care plan and says, hey, if I'm ever in ICU, I don't want to go through this, I just want to pass away peacefully. You have to accept that too. But if that's not the case,
you're absolutely right. And that's how we feel. And that's why we love you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I think, William, talk to them and lay out your plans. And just from memory, William, are you normally based in New York?
To repeat that again?
Do you live in New York? Are you just
I do. My family lives in New York. We were only visiting here on a second opinion. And this
Oh,
happened. We're like stuck here.
so for you, going to New York would be so much easier, really. I think you froze now.
Exactly.
Right.
That as
Right.
well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see. Well, if that's the case, and is your dad, does he live in New York as well? Did
We
this
all
happen?
live in New York. We live in the same house.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize that. So this happened while your dad was traveling, or?
Right. We actually came here because he has cancer. So we came here for a second opinion. And then the next day, he had septic arthritis. So we brought him in for that. And then it just tumbled into a horrific situation where he had pneumonia and an embolism in his lung. And then that became the heart attack. And that's how we are where we are today.
Okay. Well, William, that puts another spin on it, because if your dad is from New York or lives in New York, then the insurance should absolutely support him to go back to home.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is even better. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, I missed that detail. That is even better that your dad lives in New York.
Yes.
Because then the insurance should absolutely support him to go back to New York.
Yes. I think it's more the hospital, not the insurance. I already spoke to them and they said they would absolutely most probably support it. It's just the hospital has to uh, issue a note that says that they want it.
Right. Just another tip. I would imagine the neurocritical care in New York would most likely want to see the medical records.
Yes.
Mostly. But I mean, you've got access to them already. But just they probably would want to see that. And what it'll take is, most hospitals want a doctor-to-doctor handover.
Exactly. So that's where the hospital comes in. If this hospital agrees to do the handoff, then I think then we're all set.
Yeah. And do you have any idea whether neurocritical care in New York could take him before Christmas, or?
I hope so. I'm going to call first thing on Monday morning to do my best to see how quickly they can take him.
Yeah. And I also believe if you've got good health insurance, I would almost imagine, and if you've got a good case manager there, I'm almost wondering whether they can help you facilitate the transport.
Mm-hmm. I've tried that a few times in the past, and they haven't been that helpful. It's kind of like I have to hold
You
their
have to
hand and guide them.
Is it Medicare or is there Medicare and some other cover on top?
We have two coverages: Medicare, and then we also have GHI Emblem Healthcare.
I don't know anything about them, but okay. Well, I do believe you are in a good position here to
Mhm.
make that happen. I didn't realize all your family is in New York.
Yes.
What I would recommend though is it's good if you have the time to talk to neurocritical care and really let them lay out the plan for you.
Okay.
What would they do differently?
Okay.
Whilst I believe it's advantageous for you to go back to New York for all the reasons that you've outlined, I still would want to hear from them. You know, what would be their point of difference? How
Right.
will they approach it?
Right. That's a good point. So let
You
them
know,
lay it out, and then that way it's clear that New York is the better choice.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. You know, um, so that would be my recommendation because in theory, you might go to an environment where it's potentially worse. You don't want that.
Yes.
Do you know anyone at that particular hospital?
I do not, but I'm actually gonna fly. My brother's gonna fly here, and I'm gonna fly back to New York. So I'm thinking after what you said, I might just go there in person and figure things out in person versus making a phone call.
I think that's actually a good idea, William, because you get more from meeting people. You get also more from, will they just treat your dad like another number?
Mhm. I agree.
Because that's how unfortunately people feel in those situations, that their family member is just another number.
Right. I think my presence in person would make the difference.
It would make, oh, for sure, it will make the difference. By the same token, you get a bit of a feel by talking to people. What are they like? Are they personable? What's their approach?
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do that.
And also, of course, have a look online whether you can find some reviews.
I will do that.
Mm. And also, here's another tip. So, neurocritical care, hopefully with the goal of weaning him off the ventilator, ideally weaning him off the tracheostomy, starting the mobilization process, physical therapy, and then what's their network? Where can he go next?
Right. That's a good question. They would. I don't know that answer. I have to find out.
Yes, let them lay out the plan,
Mhm.
and what are their options? What's their network? Once hopefully they've achieved those goals,
Mhm.
where to from there?
Mhm. That's a very good tip. Thank you.
It's very important because otherwise you'll be going from one,
Bad
not so good
situation to another.
situation to the next not so good situation. Now, here is another concern, knowing what I know about your dad's situation, William. So, with him lying in bed all day, there's the risk of pressure sores, skin breaking down, right? That's one issue. The other issue is, and it sounds to me like you're taking care of some of that, if he's not moving his joints, right,
Yes.
he's at risk of contractions.
Of what?
Contractions, he's getting contracted. He
Okay.
won't be able to move his joints.
Okay. Yes. I. He's actually being moved like 2 or 3 times a day. They're rotating him on his side, but they aren't doing anything for contraction.
So here is to illustrate this, William. We're currently working. We've been working with a client for the last almost 15 months now, and he's been in ICU for months on end. He's finally home, finally in rehab, or he went home and now he's back into a rehab facility, which is fine. But he has a lot of contractions and he's now almost needing to walk again, needing to move again, like almost learning that again. Right? And this is why it's so important. The physical therapy aspect and the mobilization aspect is so important. Now, and here is my problem with LTAC, everyone watching this this presentation here, or the questions that we're answering, that's what LTAC promises you. Well, from my experience, it's not happening.
No.
It's not happening there. The nurse to patient ratio will be even lower. The skill level will be lower. And it's, from my experience, it's bait and switch.
It will be a pure disaster.
Pure disaster. So, but the challenge is, in the meantime, you're dealing with a difficult ICU who says, well, we can't do this. LTAC should be doing it. We know LTAC won't be doing it. And now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because every day that your dad doesn't get mobilized, that he doesn't get physical therapy, is an absolute waste of time.
That's where I guess the New York opportunity comes into play.
Yeah. Have you ever had someone else in that hospital in New York? Do you know anyone there? Or
yes, we've dealt a lot with.
Okay. Has your dad been an inpatient there before?
Say again?
Has your dad been an inpatient in this hospital before in New York?
Not in this particular hospital, no.
Okay. Because that often helps getting a bed in a hospital if they know the patient. It often helps.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Unfortunately, he has never been to this hospital.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you've got a bit of a plan here, William, in terms of what to look for.
Yes.
And how to approach it. The last concern for me is, how will he get there? What I don't know is if insurance covers or not. That part I don't know. But in terms of logistically, absolutely, he can be transferred to New York.
I actually called Medicare and they told me that if the doctors and hospital here recommend it and they go, they do a handoff to New York, then they most probably would approve that type of situation.
Yeah. Your challenge around this time of the year, though, might be the holidays and not enough availability from specialist teams for transport.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've done that research as well. I mean, they're available because it's a great, it costs anywhere from $17,000 to $30,000 for transport. So they jump at that type of opportunity.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I agree with that. There's, of course, some companies here can make money, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I think you've got a plan. I think you will need the support from this particular hospital. But you would think that they are doing the right things. You would hope.
I hope.
And if they're not, then maybe you need to look at some complaints mechanisms. But I think for now, you should approach it with optimism and say, look, I've got a place for my dad in New York where he can hopefully go. How can you help me make this happen?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's a great pleasure. Did you have any other questions?
No, again, I just want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the call, which is that you're a godsend, and everything that you're doing for my family, for all the families in similar situations, is so very important. And keep up the great work to you and to your team.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'll pass this on to my team. Thank you so much, William.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, William. Now, Francois, I want to come back to your question You are saying that my relative has been in the ICU now, PCU, for more than a month. He had a heart attack, and he has had a heart attack, and he had other diagnoses. He's been in a vegetative state since the heart attack. How optimistic should I be for any recovery if the information keeps slightly changing after testing? Salutations, Patrick and people from the forum. Well, thank you so much. Francois, do you want to come on stage here? Or because there's a lot of questions that I have with what you've shared with me. If you want to come on stage, just use the link here that William used, the StreamYard link. If not, I'll try and answer your question to the best of my abilities. So, if he had a heart attack and he had other diagnoses, he's been in a vegetative state since the heart attack, I would imagine, Francois, that your dad would have had potentially a cardiac arrest. And after the heart attack, he might have had a cardiac arrest. He might have had, similar to William's dad, some anoxic or hypoxic brain injury as a result of the cardiac arrest. Am I jumping to too many conclusions here, Francois, or would that be accurate to say? Now, you're also saying he had other diagnoses. Can you elaborate what those other diagnoses are? And you're saying, how optimistic should I be for any recovery if the information keeps slightly changing after testing? I would need a little bit more information. I do believe you should be optimistic. Anyone here on this call should be optimistic. And here is why we should be optimistic. You're not doing yourself a favor by being negative or pessimistic, right? You're not doing yourself a favor. You got to stay positive because that's the only thing you can control. No matter the outcome, I do believe you are still doing yourself a favor by staying optimistic, right? And I know that's much easier said than done, to stay optimistic when things are grim. I get that. But, you know, the only thing you can control in grim situations is being optimistic. You know, that is the only thing you can control. So, Francois, if you could tell me a little bit more, what are other diagnoses that he has? And what do you mean that information keeps slightly changing after testing? And also, similar to William, you know, your dad might not be fully recover. You know, I don't know. It might not be your dad. You're not actually saying that it's your dad. You're talking about a family member, sorry. But, you know, you may get some recovery where, you know, you think, oh, it's worth the sacrifice, where your family member might think, oh, it's worth the sacrifice. The reality is you never know until you keep trying. You know, you never know until you keep trying. You know, but if you could give me more information, that would be amazing. You can type it into the chat pad, or you can come on live on the show. In the meantime, I will read out questions that came in during the week, or for anyone on this call, if you want to type in your questions into the chat pad, or if you want to come on live on the show, you can do that through the link that I sent you there, the StreamYard link. In the meantime, I'll just come back to some of the questions that were sent in during the week. You just got to give me a second. I just got to get to my emails. Okay, there we go. So there is an email from Gail, who writes in this week and who says, I was told my late husband was brain dead. I was asked to donate his organs. I agreed. He bucked, bounced, folded, and made animalistic sounds for 5 hours. Was he brain dead? Well, I say straight away he was not. Because if someone is being brain dead, they're doing nothing. Okay, they are usually a Glasgow Coma scale of 3, which is synonym to a vegetative state. They're doing nothing, they're not even breathing. So I argue he was not brain dead. Now, Gail, what I would strongly recommend here for you is to get a medical record review done and find out what really happened. Now, when someone is being brain dead, they must be tested by 2 independent doctors for brain death. And there's a series of tests that people need to be tested for, right? For someone being brain dead. Has that happened? I doubt it has happened if your husband bucked, bounced, folded, and made animalistic sounds for 5 hours. I argue he was not brain dead. If you look at the Glasgow Coma Scale, you will see, you can type into Google Glasgow Coma Scale Intensive Care Hotline, get articles there and explanations about Glasgow Coma Scale. And you will see that someone who is brain dead will not make any sound, any noise, no nothing. Now, as far as organ donation is concerned, a lot of patients that are brain dead, right, and other organs are healthy, will be asked whether their loved one would like to donate their organs before they pass away. Now, I cannot make any comments here about whether you want to donate organs for your loved one or not. That is not my role here. What my role is here is to educate you about the healthcare system, and then you can make your own decisions. That is my role here. But I hope, Gail, I've given you enough insights here to take your next steps. My next step would be to get a medical record review done. We can do that here at intensivecarehotline.com and see what exactly happened. Was he brain dead? Did they go through the right process? Brain death testing him for brain death. Did they go through the right process by you donating organs? Hang on, yeah, that would be the next step here, Gail. And if you want a medical record review, call us at intensivecarehotline.com on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or send us an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com. And I can see, Gail, you are in Ottawa in Canada. Hi to all of my Canadian friends here anyway. Now, Francois, you are saying that your dad had a lacunar stroke. I see. That is most likely why he's in a vegetative state, because he had a stroke, most likely, right? But you're also saying, Francois, he's had other diagnoses. You're talking plural here. You're talking multiple diagnoses. Can you share what else he was diagnosed for? Again, probably very similar to Francois, to William, Francois. Your dad should, eventually go on to neurology rehab. They should be starting now to rehabilitate him if they can. Also important to know would be, is he on a ventilator? Does he have a tracheostomy? Are they mobilizing him? Are they stimulating him? What is the neurologist saying in all of this? So many unknowns here. You are saying he's got multiple diagnoses. So other questions are, if he's got multiple diagnoses, are his kidneys working? Are his liver working? Is the heart working? To what extent are the lungs working? Right? So these are questions that I would like to answer here. If you have more information here, that would be great. The more information you can give me here, the better it is. And also, you haven't shared with me how many days or weeks has your dad been in ICU, or your loved one been in ICU? Can you share that? That would be really good. That would be really good. Okay. In the meantime, I'll go back to answering another question. From Christian, who says, my dad was resuscitated after a cardiac arrest in ICU because he had an upper GI bleed. And now he's 2 days out of sedation and his eyes are open, but he isn't moving. Right. Okay, so if he's been out of sedation for 2 days after cardiac arrest, the first question to me is, how long did they resuscitate him for? That's number one. How long did they resuscitate him for? How long was he without a pulse, potentially, right? Have they done a CT scan of the brain? Have they done an MRI scan of the brain? Have they done an EEG? Other questions that I want to ask here: what sedation is he on, or was he on? Is he in heart? Is he in kidney failure? Is he in liver failure? Because that could all delay waking up, right? The highest chance for him not waking up is simply because he has some form of hypoxic or anoxic brain injury from the cardiac arrest. But that is speculation unless you have got an MRI scan result of the brain or a CT scan result of the brain or a EEG result. Talk to a neurologist, but also talk to the intensive care team. What sedation has he been on? Are the kidneys working? Are the liver working? If the kidneys and liver are not working, there's a much higher chance of him not waking up quick, because the liver and the kidneys can't process the sedatives and they'll stay in your body for much longer, right? So the good news here is, Christian, that a lot of patients in ICU may not wake up even if they don't have a hypoxic brain injury. It just takes time, and they wake up in their own time, right? So I want to wrap this up here today. I want to thank William for his contribution. I also want to thank Francois for his contribution. I do these YouTube lives once a week, usually at 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, Sydney, Melbourne time, which is 6:30 p.m. on a Saturday, Eastern Standard Time in North America, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time in North America. And it is usually 11:30 p.m. UK time. Now, to wrap this up today, if you like my videos, give them a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share the video with your friends and families if you find them valuable, and comment below what you want to see next or what questions and insights you have from these videos. Now, we have a membership for families of critically ill patients in intensive care at intensivecarehotline.com. If you click on the membership link, you can become a member here. William is one of our members. Thank you, William, for your membership. In the membership, you have access to me and my team 24 hours a day in the membership area and via email, and we answer all questions intensive care related. Furthermore, you can also get access to the membership by clicking on intensivecaresupport.org directly. Now, I also offer one-on-one consulting with you and your families, one-on-one over the phone, Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, whichever medium works best for you. I talk to doctors and nurses directly. I talk to families directly, of course. I ask all the questions to the doctors that you haven't even considered asking, but must be asked for you to get peace of mind, control, power, and influence. Like I said, I have worked in critical care for over 20 years in 3 different countries, where I worked as a nurse unit manager for over 5 years, and where I have been consulting and advocating for the last 10 years here at intensivecarehotline.com for families in intensive care all over the world. Please have a look at our testimonial section and our podcast for client interviews. We also offer medical record reviews in real time so that you can have a second opinion in real time. Once again, so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence. I also represent you in family meetings with intensive care teams so that you don't get walked all over, right? and that you get, once again, peace of mind, control, power, and influence, and making informed decisions. We also offer medical record reviews after intensive care if you have unanswered questions, if you need closure, or if you're simply suspecting medical negligence. And all of that you get at intensivecarehotline.com. If you need home care, go and have a look at intensivecareathome.com. With Intensive Care at Home, we're currently operating all around Australia, in all major capital cities and all remote and regional areas as well. Now, again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, click the notification bell, comment below, and share the video with your friends and families. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week, same time, 10:30 a.m. Sydney, Melbourne time on a Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time in the US on a Saturday. Thanks for watching. This is Patrik Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com and intensivecareathome.com, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care for now.